Welcome to Magnetic Mind Hacks, where clarity creates choice, choice creates change, and change creates the life you love. Today we're talking about beta, and more specifically, what happens when your brain gets stuck in beta. Because a lot of people think something is wrong with them because their mind will not stop racing. They keep replaying conversations, they keep worrying about the future, they keep thinking about what they should have done, what they need to do next, and what could go wrong, what somebody meant, what they are forgetting, what they need to fix, what they need to prevent, and what they need to control. And after a while, the mind does not feel like a tool anymore. It feels like traffic. It feels loud. It feels crowded. It feels urgent. It feels like there's always another tab open inside your head. So today I want to give you a different way to understand this. You're not broken because your mind is busy. You may simply be living in a state designed for action, planning, analysis, and protection. That state is called beta. Beta is the brainwave state most associated with active waking life. Thinking, planning, working, talking, making decisions, solving problems, handling responsibility, responding to the world. Beta is not bad. Beta is useful. You need beta to function. You need beta to organize your day. You need beta to solve practical problems. You need beta to communicate, work, drive, make decisions, and move through normal waking life. So the goal is not to demonize beta, okay? The goal is to understand beta. Because when you understand your state, you gain more power to change your pattern. And here is where the problem begins. Beta becomes exhausting when your mind stays there too intensely, for too long, without enough regulation, recovery, or internal safety. Then beta can shift from clear thinking into pressure thinking, right? This stressed out thinking and overthinking, overwhelmed and overdriven thinking. And there is a big difference between the two. Clear thinking has direction. Pressure thinking has panic. And it sounds exactly what it sounds like. And it is exactly what it sounds like. So clear thinking helps you solve one thing at a time. Pressure thinking tries to solve your entire life in one moment. And clear thinking can pause, and pressure thinking keeps chasing another problem. Clear thinking says, what is the next step? When pressure thinking says, what if everything goes wrong? And that is the beta loop. The beta loop is when the mind believes that if it keeps thinking, it will keep you safe. If it keeps analyzing, it will keep you prepared. If it keeps predicting, it will keep you in control. If it keeps scanning, it will prevent pain. If it keeps rehearsing, it will avoid failure. But eventually, too much thinking stops feeling like wisdom. It starts feeling like survival. And when the mind is in survival, it does not just think. It searches, it scans, it checks, it fabricates, it replays, it predicts, it questions, it doubts. It looks for threats, it looks for proof, it looks for certainty, and because life does not always give perfect certainty, the mind keeps spinning. This is why overthinking can feel so hard to stop, because on the surface, it looks like you're trying to solve a problem, but underneath, the mind may be trying to create safety. So when someone says, just stop thinking about it, that usually does not help, because the issue is not only the thought, the issue is the state behind the thought. The body may not feel safe enough to let the thought go. The nervous system may still feel alert. The mind may still believe there's something to prevent. This is why you can be physically tired and mentally wired at the same time. Your body wants rest, but your mind still feels responsible for protection. Your body wants peace, but your attention keeps looking for the next thing to handle. And your body wants to exhale, but your inner system is still bracing. And that does not mean you're weak, and it doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you need fixing. That means your system is activated. And Magnetic Mind Hacks teaches you to stop shaming the pattern and start understanding the operating system. Because shame does not create clarity. Awareness creates clarity, and clarity creates choice. So let's make this simple. Beta is useful when it serves your life. Beta becomes a problem when it starts running your life, and beta serves your life when you are focused. But beta runs your life when you are frantic, and beta serves your life when you are solving one problem. But beta runs your life when every thought becomes a crisis, and beta serves your life when you're making a decision. And beta runs your life when you keep needing certainty before you can move. Beta serves your life when you are alert, but beta runs your life when you cannot relax because your mind keeps searching for danger. So the question is not, how do I get rid of beta? The question is, how do I know when beta is helping me and when beta is hijacking me? That question is powerful because now you're not fighting your mind, you're observing your state. You are learning the difference between useful mental activity and overactivated mental activity. And that is where the mind hack comes in. Here is today's mind hack. You cannot always think your way out of overthinking. So sometimes you have to shift your state first. Let that land. You cannot always think your way out of overthinking. Sometimes you have to shift your state first. Because the same state that created the spiral is usually not the state that ends the spiral. So this goes back to the age old saying, you cannot solve a problem from the same level as the problem. You have to rise above the problem and come down on the problem from above. So the same kind of concept is in this general solution. The same mind that is panicking is not always the mind that can access the solution at all. So the same nervous system that feels threatened is not always able to interpret life clearly. So instead of asking, how do I fix everything right now, ask, what would help my system feel safe enough to think clearly? That one question changes everything. Your perspective first, because now you're not attacking yourself, you are supporting yourself. You're not forcing clarity, you're creating the conditions for clarity. And this matters because many people are trying to change their lives from a pressured beta state. They're trying to manifest from fear. They're trying to affirm from panic. They're trying to make decisions from urgency, and they're trying to heal while overstimulated. They're trying to create a new identity while their system is still rehearsing the old emergency. And then they wonder why the new belief doesn't land. They wonder why the affirmation feels fake. They wonder why visualization feels forced. And they wonder why they keep falling back into the same pattern. It's not always because the desire is wrong. It is often because the state is not receptive. The mind is not open, the body is not settled, and the nervous system is not convinced that the new identity is safe yet. And this is why state comes before strategy, because the state can often make us sabotage friendships, relationships, whole opportunities, and optimistic outcomes that were coming into view for us because our state was not recalibrated or shifted into a more calm central nervous system that could truly accept without self-sabotage, without undercutting, without undermining, without degrading the energy and the relation or the inner communication and the interpersonal communications of any kind of relationships or work or family environment or anything in your life and situation that ever came up and made you feel in a way that could have left you feeling even more satisfied or fulfilled in your life, but you ended up sabotaging because you didn't believe that it could happen for you or that it was true or that it was right. And it's happened to all of us in our lives, so there's no judgment and none being passed or even sifted through to filter out anything here. It's just pointing out that this is why some things fall through in our lives, and it's not really clear why, but it's because of that self-sabotaging, because of this nervous system that is convinced that the new identity isn't safe yet, or that there's something that then must be clenched, or something that must be braced, something that's not settled in the body, something that's not settled in the mind and in the state. So this is why state comes before strategy. And this also, before the new thought can land, the system may need to soften. Before the new identity can feel natural, the body may need to feel safe. Before the new future can feel possible, the mind may need to stop scanning for disaster. So let's practice this in a real life way. When you notice the beta loop, I want you to use this 3-step beta reset. Step 1, name the state. Say, my mind is activated right now. That is it. Not I am crazy, not I am failing, not I always do this, not I am too much, not I cannot handle life, just my mind is activated right now. Call it, name it, observe it, acknowledge it. Naming the state gives you distance from the state, believe it or not. It reminds you I am having an experience. I am not the experience. That is awareness. People are not their behaviors. Behaviors are extensions of the path of least resistance that people can follow. And so it's important that we understand that people are having experiences, people are not their experiences, which means that people are not their behaviors. Behaviors are patterns that are only the path of least resistance. So that is awareness, and awareness is the beginning of choice. Step 2, lower the input. Overactivated beta often comes with too much stimulation, too many tabs open, too many notifications, too many conversations, too many tasks, too many choices, and too many unfinished loops, too much noise, too much pressure, too much mental clutter, ultimately. So lower the input, turn something off, put the phone down for a moment, look away from the screen, sit still, put your feet on the floor, relax your shoulders, unclench your jaw, soften your hands, and take one slower breath than usual, right? Inhale quickly, 4 counts, and then exhale really slowly, 8 counts. Maybe that grounds you ultimately, honestly, immediately. Not because one breath magically solves everything, but because the breath is a signal. It tells the body, we are here, we are present, and we are not in immediate danger. We can slow down enough to choose. And then step 3 is choose one next honest step. Not the perfect step, not the most impressive step, right? Not the biggest step, and not the step that fixes your whole life. Just one honest step, probably one smallest honest step. Drink the water, okay? Write the note, send the message, make the list, clean one surface, take a walk, step outside, choose the priority, finish one small thing, ask for help, close one loop. Each one of these is an example of a step that can be taken that is small and impactful today, because beta becomes chaotic when there are too many open loops. The mind calms down when it receives direction, not pressure. Direction. Pressure says fix everything. Direction says take the next step. And pressure says you are behind. Direction says start here. Pressure says you should already know. Direction says choose what is clear now. Pressure says I've got to get it all done. Direction says it'll all get done in the right time, and you will do as much as you can. And how much you do is fine. That is the shift. And this is why one honest step can be more powerful than trying to solve your whole life from panic. Because one honest step creates movement. Movement creates evidence. Evidence creates confidence. And confidence teaches the mind. I am not stuck. I am choosing. This is identity work. This is rewiring, because every time you interrupt the old loop, you teach your system a new pattern. Instead of I spiral when I feel pressure, you begin becoming I pause when I feel activated. Instead of I overthink until I collapse, you begin becoming I regulate first, then I respond. Instead of my thoughts control me, you begin becoming I can observe my thoughts and guide my attention. That is a new identity. That is not just positive thinking. That is a different relationship with your own mind. And this is where magnetic mind hacks becomes practical. We're not here to pretend life is always easy. We're not here to shame your nervous system, and we're not here to tell you just to think happy thoughts while your body is still bracing for danger. We're here to understand the inner operating system, the thoughts, the beliefs, the emotions, attention, state, identity, self-concept, repetition, because your mind was trained by repetition, and it can be retrained by repetition. Every time you pause instead of panic, you're practicing a new identity. Every time you lower the input instead of feeding the spiral, you are practicing a new identity. Every time you spiral up the 2% instead of down, you are practicing a new identity. And every time you choose one honest step instead of demanding the whole solution, you are practicing a new identity. Every time you say my mind is activated right now, instead of something is wrong with me, you are practicing a new identity. You are becoming someone who knows how to guide the mind. Not by force, not by shame, not by fear, but by awareness. So today's reframe is: I do not need to solve everything from pressure. I can create the state where clarity becomes available. Say that again. I do not need to solve everything from pressure. I can create the state where clarity becomes available. And today's identity statement is: I'm learning how to guide my mind instead of being dragged by it. That is the work. That is the rewiring. That is the shift from unconscious pattern to conscious creation. Because once you can notice your state, you are no longer completely controlled by it. And you can pause, you can breathe, you can lower the noise, you can redirect your attention, you can choose the next step, and the next step matters. More importantly, because your life does not change only through massive breakthroughs. Sometimes your life changes because you interrupted one loop today. You chose one different response today. You regulated one moment today. Too many R's in one video. You found new peace today. You recalibrated today. You watched a new video today. You did not abandon yourself today. You fully gave your mind direction instead of pressure today. And that counts. That is how identity changes. That is how the inner operating system gets rewritten. And so, if your mind has been racing, do not start with shame. Start with awareness. Ask, what state am I in? Is my mind clear or is it pressured? Do I need more thinking or do I need more regulation? What input can I lower? What is one honest step? That is the beta reset. Name the state. Lower the input. Choose one next honest step after you lower the input. And because all of these things will lead you to understanding that you are not broken because your mind is busy. You're learning how to work with your mind. And when you understand your states, you gain more power to change your pattern. Clarity creates choice. Choice creates change. Change creates the life you love. Until next time, stay curious and welcome to the rewiring.